Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you the basics of the Ruy Lopez, also known as the Spanish opening. So let's start. So the Ruy Lopez begins with the moves e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6 and bb5, and it is one of, if not the most theoretical openings, and in most lines, in most main lines, there's been analysis till like move 30 in many variations. So quite a theoretical opening. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of everything. So after bishop b5, the main move for black is a6. We're going to go with the alternatives later. So a6 is called the Morphy Defense. Then bishop a4, retreating. Then knight f6, castles. And now the close variation, which is the main variation, is bishop e7. Then so this is the close variation, and basically there's another line where white takes this, but if where black takes that, but if you take that, then this kind of file opens up. So you want to castle first. Bishop e7, then rook e1, b5, bb3, and d6 is the main move here. Just opening up this bishop, like maybe bishop g4 ideas, maybe bishop e6 ideas, trying to trade. Also just defending e5. So c3, trying to go d4, because you don't want to go d4 straight away, you want your pawn to end up there. That's an important square. And castles, h3 is the main move, and so this is the main position of the close variation. And now black has quite a lot of moves. For example, knight a5 is called the Chigorin defense, knight b8 is called the Breyer defense, bishop b7 is called the Zaitsev defense, and all these variations, like basically after h3 for white, the main ideas are d4, and then just trying to reroute this knight to d2, then f1, and then g3. So trying to go for attack on the king side, and black mainly aims for queen side space. So c5 is a big move in these variations. So like as you see, after knight a5 and after knight b8, the knight's going out to the way so that c5 can come, and then the knight can come back. Sorry. And also in the bridge was the idea might be 97, and then Zaitsev bishop b7 tries to, like, because now g4 you can't come to g4, so tries to attack on this diagonal. And also there are, for black, there are many other moves like h6, bishop e6, knight d7. These have all been played before. So then after d6, instead of playing c3, which is the main line, white might try to avoid the main line by playing a4, which is called the anti-classical. And basically you don't go for the c3 and castles lines, you just try to attack this pawn on b5, try to punish it straight away. Then main move here was d6, but other than d6 you can also try to play castles. And if white plays c3, then of course you can transpose back to the main line with d6, right? But the main move here, castles, of if black plays castles, they're probably aiming for the martial attack, which is d5 or d6, and then e d5, knight d5, knight e5, knight e5, rook e5, c6, and d4, which is the main move. And basically black has compensation for the pawn in that there's better development, and there's chances of a king side attack, because see, all of these pieces are pointing towards the king side only, and all of white's defenders are gone. There's only like one, right? And just to like show you an example of how deep these lines go, after d4 there's bishop d6, rook e1, queen h4, g3, queen h3, queen h4 trying to do mate over here, then g3, queen h3, rook e4 trying to trap the queen, like rook e4 trying to go rook h4, then g5, and this is just 15 moves, and most of these positions have been analyzed to move 30. Just imagine, that's quite a lot. Now, as with the classical, after castles, white can play a4, and it's called the anti-martial. Then instead of playing b5 over here after rook e1, black can also play d6, which is called the Averbach, and basically it doesn't weaken the queen side like b5. B5 weakens the queen side a bit. D6 doesn't weaken the queen side, but then it allows bc6, and you have to take back with this. And also over here, if white plays c3, b5 doesn't have the same power to it, because then the bishop can go straight to c2 and defend d4. Doesn't have to go to b3. So that's b5. And then after bishop e7, white can also play d3, which is called the modern line. I've been playing a lot. So then instead of after castles, instead of bishop e7 like I showed, there are also some other variations. So for example, knight takes c4 is called the open defense, because now everything kind of opens up. Rook e1, this file opens up, and a lot of stuff opens up. So d4 is the main line, then b5, bishop b3, d5, d takes e5, bishop e6. Defending this, you can't take back. And now white has many moves here. So for example, c3, and bishop e7 is the main line. However, you can also play bishop c5, which is kind of more aggressive, and knight b2, knight b2, castles, and bishop c2, trying to attack this knight. Then instead of c3, you can also play knight b2, and so this is called the Karpov line, because Karpov played it once. So knight c5, c3, d4. Now this interesting move, knight g5, because you can't take it, because then comes queen f3. Yeah, queen f3, and you gain this back. So after bishop e6, queen e2, bishop e7, rook d1. Yeah, that's another line. And bishop e6, the line is bishop e3, bishop e7, and c3. So that bishop e3, the main idea is that you can't play bishop c5 here, and you want to play c3, but you don't want to allow bishop c5, so you want bishop e7 line only to come. So then that's the open variations. So knight takes e4 after castles. You can also play b5, which leads to the Arkhangelsk and New Arkhangelsk. So bishop b3, bishop b7 is called the Arkhangelsk variation, and now knight g5, d5, e takes d5, kind of resembling a fried liver, but with the bishop on b3, not c4. And now the move is, again, you don't take back. Even this, like in the fried liver, you can't take back, because if you take here, then in that this knight takes f7. Over here is queen h5, you go g6 to stop the mate, and you go queen f3 back, and you'll either going to lose this or you're going to get mated. So after ed5, you go knight d4 here, and yeah, that's called the Arkhangelsk variation. And there's also, after bishop b3, you can play bishop c5, which is called the new Arkhangelsk, or the modern Arkhangelsk. And this is what I used to play with black against the Ruy Lopez, and you play d5 if white played the Ruy Lopez, and a4, and you go rook b8. You don't want to take, because in that this is an isolated pawn there. So that is if white plays castles over here, and that is like if black plays knight f6 and then castles. Over here you can also play d6, which is called the modern Steinitz, or the new Steinitz defense. And you're going to see later there's a opening called the Steinitz defense, and basically the difference between that and this is that now this is still pinned, but now black has the option of playing b5 to break the pin anytime he wants to. And of course, instead of playing bishop a4 after a6, you can also take bishop c6. It's called the exchange variation. And basically over here the imbalance is that black has doubled pawns for the bishop pair. You can't take b takes c6 over here, because then d4 and position is just bad. So over here it's well known that as white you can't take knight takes e5, because then queen d4, and you're attacking this and you're attacking this, and it's just bad. So after d6, main move is knight c3, and you can also play castles. And now you can defend e5 with pretty much anything. This f6, queen f6, queen d6, bd6, queen e7. There's a lot of variations over here, and yeah. And uh, now these variations, let's suppose black just plays something random, then now white can take 95, because if queen d4, then you can just go back. You can't take because rook e1 pins the queen. So that's the exchange variation. Now, of course, after bishop b5, black does not have to play a6. He can play a lot of other moves. Now, the main move, if you don't want to play that, is knight s6, called the Berlin defense. And like this was repopularized by Kramnik in his World Championship match against Kasparov in 2000. Now, knight s6, castles, knight d4, d4, knight d6. This is main line, bc6, bc6, d5, knight f5, queen d8, king d8. This is called the Berlin endgame, and it's quite equal really. And in the 2000 like World Championship match, there were 4 draws from this position. Basically, white has better pawns and his king is better placed. Like black's king is a bit awkward, but black has the bishop pair, and there aren't any really weaknesses that white can attack. Now, of course, instead of playing castle, there's also the anti-Berlin d3. Basically, you just don't want to go into the Berlin lines. You just want to stop this. You want to defend that. Then bc5. You can also play d6 instead of bc5, but bc5 is more common because you want to get your bishop out first. And now there are many moves. You can castle, you can play c3, you can take. There's a lot of moves. And also after d3, there's this uncommon move knight e7, which isn't really that good, but it tries to set up the Mortimer trap. Basically, Mortimer trap is if you take in the c6, there's no good way to defend this. If bc4, then sorry, yeah, there's no good way to defend this. If you play bishop a4, then this queen a5. If you play bc4, then there's queen a5 anyway, and you're attacking this. And so now you can play knight c4 here, and that tries to go for mate. If you take this, then it's mate. So then you can't take that, and you play knight g6 over here, so that the king has some breathing room. This is still attacked, so you have to move it out of the way, and b5, and black wins this position. So that's the trap. But castles is like knight s6. The Berlin is also quite common. It's the most common move other than a6. Then after bb5, there are many other moves, so like f5, called the Schliemann gambit. Then you don't take because an e4, and this knight has to go back. You can play queen g5, and it's just better for black over here. So you can't really take this. You have to go knight c3, and f takes e4, knight e4, d5. This is a very complicated position. Then after bishop b5, there are 3 other alternatives, which are d6, the Steinitz. Now, remember I showed you after a6, ba4, d6 is called the modern Steinitz. Over here, you can break the pin with b5. Black can break the pin. But if you play d6 straight away, then you can't break the pin because this bishop's on b5. So next, if you play a6, then I'll just take. And you can't break the pin. So this is quite a bit worse. There's also board defense with knight d4, and cozy defense with knight g7. But these 3 moves, knight g7, knight d4, and d6, are really uncommon, and there's not a lot of theory in these. So that is all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye bye.